is happening, everybody? This is James. This is a video I have been looking forward to making for a very long time. This is 10 things that you have to do to your C63. All right, so first off, we're gonna start with the exhaust. In my mind, that's the #1 thing that you need to do to your C63 and able to purely enjoy it to its fullest potential. These cars sound amazing factory, but they are so limited in the sound output that they give. I will say it's a positive that they do not have any resonators. It's really just the exhaust that you have to chop off in order to be able to get the loudest sound from them. So that was the very first thing that I did when I got the car almost a year ago. Now, 15,000 miles later, still one of the best things that I've done with the car. Whoa. It's very important if you have the adjustable button for the louder and the quieter exhaust that you use the AWE plug to go in and pretty much loop that connection at the very end of the exhaust where it thinks there's supposed to be an exhaust flap, but because you've removed the exhaust, there's no flap anymore. So the car is confused. As these cars get, they're a little bit too smart for their own good. So it's very important that you get the AWE plug. I'm gonna include all of the links down in the description so you can pick up everything in this list for yourself. So once you install that plug, it will create the loop and the car will think that the flap is still there and it will not put it in a limp mode. If you do not have this plug in, it'll put it in a very odd AMG version of limp mode where at 5,000 RPMs it completely cuts boost and it becomes, I wouldn't say slow, but I mean no boost, so it's pretty slow. So put that plug in and you're good to go with the exhaust. All right, just to give an idea, this is what a cold start sounds like inside of a closed garage. I wouldn't waste your time on any aftermarket exhaust when you can just have your favorite local fab shop or aftermarket European shop make your exhaust. It's very important that they install drone tubes at the very end. So it's basically just routes it off 2 different ways. It keeps any drone from happening. Very important, very easy to do. You're also gonna need to make up your mind whether you want stainless or titanium. This setup right here is stainless. If you do titanium, it's probably gonna cost about 10 times more, but that's the loudest that you can possibly get with these cars is titanium. So I would say with the exhaust, there's definitely a runner-up as far as the options that people go with on the configurations. With this car, you can keep the stock sport exhaust, the AMG sport exhaust, and to be able to keep your functions with the switch on the console, with being able to turn it on and off to make it louder or quieter. That's an option. If you really do care about the people around you and their perception of the sound, you can do the downpipes and keep your AMG sport exhaust to give you the option. You still get all the performance benefits from the downpipes. You just also keep the functionality of being able to be loud and quiet. That's also one of the best bets if you have a 6.2 liter C63. You can keep the AMG sport exhaust. You do the headers, catless headers, and that's a really surefire way to make your car sound awesome. I think what a lot of people don't realize is this car, the C63 at 600 horsepower after the stage 2 tune, is almost identical in speed, straight line speed as a Huracan. I think there's definitely a little bit to be said with the aerodynamics of that car versus this one, but it's incredible to see what's available at such a fraction of the price. With that being said, we're gonna roll right into number 2, and that is the tune. Stage 2 tune, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 if you end up wanting to do turbo, stage 1 if you do not want to do downpipes. I'm gonna recommend stage 2 for now. That's what I have currently in the C63. Gets about 150 extra horsepower and I think 150 extra foot-pounds of torque. DME tuning, that's also gonna be the brand that I recommend with tuning software. They've got the most reliable tunes, the pops and bangs tune, they have that. Non-pops and bangs, it's up to you, but from power to reliability to consistency within the product, that's what we're seeing is the best bet. Shout out to Liqui, their customer service is absolutely incredible. You can hop on the phone, talk to them anytime if you have any questions. They'll be happy to answer it. Definitely big fan of DME. I'll leave that link in the description as well. They'll ship out the tuner. You can do it yourself. If it's, obviously stage 1 without the downpipes, you can do that yourself. If you got to do the downpipes, I mean, hey, you can do it. But with C63s, it's pretty tough to do downpipes yourself. It's a lot easier if you have a shop. Go ahead and knock that out for you. Another point about the tune is about how boring stock C63s are without all of these modifications. It's almost painful. And I say that from a perspective of going through the motions with all these modifications. This took a year to do. Obviously, this could have taken 2 weeks if, was really trying to expedite everything. But from a perspective of what the cars can be to what they are from the factory, I wouldn't say horrible stock C63s are, but they're boring. And again, I wouldn't say they're slow either, but when you drive something that has, 150, 200 extra horsepower from factory, driving the factory again is just, it's horrendous. I mean, it's pretty bad. All right, so the next, and this is very tune related, is gonna be your high flow cats or downpipes, whatever you wanna do, whatever state you're in, whether, I think the wording is for off-road purposes only, but you're gonna need that for stage 2. Something more high flow in order to let those turbos breathe, because the cats, all 4 of them, the primaries and the secondaries in this car, do a lot with restricting the performance that it's capable of. So just know, downpipes very important for getting the most possible performance out of these cars. I'll leave the link in the description. I used Ssr Downpipes. So one of the only downsides with doing the high flow cats or the catless downpipes, again, depending on your state, where you live, would be the smell. You're probably not gonna be running to run the air conditioning or the heat because either one of those will suck up the fumes. Even though it's exiting out the back, definitely the fumes are quite a lot more with the catless or the high flow cat setup with the downpipes. Also, like when you are parking in a garage, you're definitely gonna wanna scoot into the garage as fast as possible, like nose first, and shut the car off like pretty quick, because that garage will fill up with fumes pretty quick as well. But hey, I mean, that's just the game we play. All right, so the next thing is lowering springs. These cars come from factory looking like monster trucks, super lifted in the air. I understand that's, you know, for the normal person, you know, in order to get in and out of parking lots and curbs and all sorts of things. That's a protected feature. I appreciate that, I guess, but gonna need to get rid of that lifted look, and lowering springs is gonna be very important for the overall look of the car. I went with H&R lowering springs. It's a great brand. I didn't notice a big difference in it getting more stiff or less stiff, or changing in any way. You keep all of your adjustability when you're doing the lowering springs, in this car at least, from the factory controls in order to do the comfort modes or the Sport Plus. And the suspension, it's all up to you, and you keep that controls right at your fingertips with these cars. Downside to the lowering springs would be it changing your perspective on where you can and cannot drive. There are some parking lots that when you're driving a lowered car, you just cannot get in. So you have to find an alternate entrance or come at it at a very aggressive angle in order to let one of your front tires catch the curb before the rest of the car does. More than likely you'll be, you know, 3 wheels, 1 wheel up off the ground when you're entering, you know, certain locations. But again, if you want the car to be lower, then that's one of the things you have to think about. I noticed immediately after doing the lowering springs that the camber goes in from already like this to even more so. I ended up demolishing the insides of my tires. I didn't like that. I needed that to change because I needed to be able to get the most amount of life off of these tires as possible. I do a ton of highway driving, so it was so important to be able to keep the ability to drive far and to come back and not have excessive tire wear on these tires. So these were interesting waters to tread through. So I'm happy to be able to help you guys out with this process. And I used a brand called True Heart. Their camber arms for the front, and then I used K-Mac suspension parts for the rear, and specifically their bushing kit in order to be able to adjust the camber in order so I wasn't punishing tires. So I'm going to keep those links in the description as well. Amazing brands, customer service on both of those has been incredible. So happy to be able to expedite y'all's experience in the camber situation. So technically, as of right now, with the alignment, everything is in the green. Everything is in the green. So it's as it came from factory, and the camber, the toe, all of that, it's just now a lot lower, but everything else is the same. Well, I'm extremely happy with how all of that worked out, and it's good to go now. Okay, so next, with the idea of lowering springs, you're gonna see that the car looks like it's driving around kind of like this, not very muscular. So the way to fix that is with spacers. Very important to get spacers if you're gonna keep the stock wheels on the car. Right now you can see that there is an incredible amount of space between the outside of the car and the inside of the car. This is very simple. H&R spacers, it's 15 millimeter in the rear and then 10 millimeter spacers in the front. I'll also leave a link in the description for those as well. So the next one is one of my favorites to talk about. It is the diverter valves. How it comes from the factory is from here to here, there's a pipe that when the turbos blow off, that air comes around through here back into the intake. If I understand it correctly, Mercedes does not want to give the sound of turbo blow off in their big V8 naturally aspirated vehicles, right? Because you have to remember the 6.2 liter, that was their you know, coming from the big 6.2 liter cars and not wanting to break away from the huge V8s that AMG is known for. I get it, it's all good. However, these cars have turbos now and we love them. So we want that blow off sound. It's so important, and it sounds so good when you hit the gas, you let off and it goes shh. pop, pop, pop. It's a ridiculous sound combination, and all you had to do to achieve that is the diverter valves. That install is truly a 15-minute install. It's very, very quick to install that into your car. They put 30 minutes on the website, but realistically, you're looking at about a 15-minute install. If I had to pick between everything that's been done to this car, I'd have to say that the diverter valves are one of my favorite things that I've done to the car. All right, so the next one is not necessarily a modification, but I would say it's a requirement if you're gonna be running more boost and more horsepower off of these cars. You want the best possible oil that you could possibly get for your vehicles. My full-time job, filmmaking, I've worked a lot with Liqui, and after seeing so many testimonials of the amazing use, reliability, and performance gains from Liqui, lower temperatures in your engine, less friction, it's all around a better experience with your car. And I can actually tell since using Liqui with their Cera additive, that the time between startup of the vehicle, startup temperature in the low 70s, 80s, whatever it is, for it to get all the way up to peak temperature now takes longer. I think a great example of the performance increase that you get with Liqui would be all of the guys that use it in Formula D. I mean, those cars are redlining the entire time that they're on the track, and that they, more than anybody, need reliability in their engines throughout the entire season. So here are a couple clips.
Hey guys, I'm Michael Ssr, 2013 Formula Drift champion. We are absolutely beating up these cars. Drifting, road racing, high horsepower, high revving. You need to put the best liquids into these cars. We use Liqui. It has been spectacular. 1,000 horsepower, 9,000 RPM, excellent bearing wear. Everything in the engines look great. Couldn't ask for anything better.
So welcome folks, we have Michael Ssr here with us, and as you probably know, he is world champion of 2013 of Formula Drift, right?
That's correct.
The Formula 1 of the cars, it is the MotoGP of the motorcycles.
Side by side at 90 miles an hour plus, some tracks were up at 115 miles an hour, and it is absolutely insane.
This is what is in the car right now, in addition to their Cera additive. That means even less friction in the engine, and that's important when you're running more horsepower, more boost in these cars. So I highly recommend using Liqui. I will include those links in the description as well. So I used to be extremely hardcore about keeping the Mercedes specific Mobil 1 in this car, but once you realize that any brand, when they choose the oil that they want to use in their cars, they're going with the absolute cheapest option that meets their specifications. That was a huge realization to me once my mind was opened up to this is how everything functions in the automotive world. And it's also the same with the amount of miles that the manufacturer recommends between oil services. So for example, Mercedes recommends every 10,000 miles to do an oil service. So right off the bat, that should open some eyes. That's not good. Any aftermarket shop is going to tell you that 5,000 miles, that's going to be your best bet for oil services. It's the same thing with the transmission service, the diff service, whatever the brand recommends, cut that in half, and that's what you want to do with your services. So Liqui is made in Germany, and I'm going to link a couple promotional videos that I did with Liqui. It doesn't take too much to realize why there's so much lacking in the stock oil that the car comes with from the factory. You compare that to a company that really cares about longevity and quality. bit of their oil is made in Germany. It's so inspiring being around anybody that works at Liqui Moly. You can genuinely see that everybody loves the products and they know the products so well. So feel free, you can call them anytime if you have any questions about what spec's going to be best. And as long as you stay within your manufacturer's spec and requirements with the oil and any of the fluids, then you're good to go. Keeping your warranty, happier engine, warranty's good to go. And there you go. So next thing, very important, that you need to do with your vehicle is window tint. You can see right here, this is 20% on the windshield, and then I've got 5% on the windows on the side. And then very important to have the 5% strip at the top. Even if you have your entire windshield tinted, this top strip right here does the most good for your eyes. When the sun is coming through, your windshield does a great job of blocking it, but that windshield strip at the top does the best for blocking the sun from your eyes. So windshield tint and side window tint, very important for the best possible driving experience with your car. Paint protection film. Paint protection film is one of my favorite, newest discoveries throughout this year. Not only does it protect the actual paint of your car, but it removes all imperfections and it's self-healing. It's ridiculous what paint protection film can provide for your car, for your investment, in order to keep it like it's absolutely new. Also, washing your car is 1,000 times easier now because it's self-healing film. So obviously you need to be careful as you're washing the car, but just the fact that it has an entire layer, pretty much armor, over the entire car, that is immensely helpful in order to keep it looking its best. Also, there's more of a thickness.
Damn, boy, he's thick! Boy, that's a thick-ass boy!
With the paint protection film. I don't know if I'll be able to show it as well on here, but it's just incredible. The sparkle came back out. So the gold on this car, the gold wrap is incredibly sensitive, so I needed the best possible protection in order to keep it looking new for as long as I keep the car. So that was very important to me. The paint protection film absolutely does it. This car, with so many miles on it just in 1 year, looks the same as when the wrap was first installed. So I'm incredibly thankful to Highline Detail for the paint protection film, and then very thankful to Lewis at Sensational for the wrap. It's stunning and it's so much fun. So the next one's a fun one. I would say this would be a money saving situation for if you drive around with this car. It's not the easiest situation to drive the speed limit, so it's very important to have a notification of where cops are at all times, and the best way to do that would be with Waze. And then you just put Waze up right there, put your phone there, and then you're driving along and you always know where the cops are. I would say Waze has probably saved me thousands. So this phone mount right here, I'll put it in the description as well. But I would say from a location point of view, that's definitely been incredible having the phone mount right there. Okay, so that is 10, but we're gonna go into some bonus rounds. So not done yet. The sound system in the back, this is a fun one right here. I don't know if you can see, yep, you can definitely see it. We got some green LEDs up there. I would definitely say Sundown Audio is going to be your best bet if you want to put a sound system back here. The actual system in this car is pretty good. It took me about 9 months to really get tired of the stock system in this car enough to put a system in the back and, you know, give up my entire trunk space for it. But from where I come from, automotively speaking, sound systems are incredibly important to me. I love it. I want it to hurt. I want it that loud. So to have this car stock for so long, definitely I think is a testament to the Burmester sound system that's in these cars. There are actually either 8s or 10s that are in the floorboard of the driver and the passenger. So the sound system is pretty good in this car. This is definitely coming from somebody that requires very, very loud sound in their vehicles. So with that being said, we're figuring out some situational stuff with the car in order to upgrade the electrical system, because the alternators I think are around $650 with these cars, and I definitely don't want to blow my alternator with the system. So I put a voltmeter right there, And here's the sundown bass knob and then the audio control knob. I'll put a link to that in the description as well because it restores the bass in. I don't think it's that important in this car, just due to the Burmester system. The bass is probably pretty linear as you turn up the volume, but what happens in normal cars is when you turn the volume up, the bass goes down in order to protect the speakers of the car. So I mean, you know, non-Burmester cars probably do that, to where the audio control, the processor actually helps a lot. My recommendation to anybody adding a sound system into their car is to add a voltmeter somewhere. You can put it in the console, you can put it anywhere that's visible to you, because that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see any new sound system owner do, is they run the voltage down too low, because you can't hear the voltage. You don't know the voltage is low or high, but the amplifier definitely does, and you're probably going to be running a dirty signal without knowing it. It's essentially a lot less performance to your amplifier, and you can damage things, blow subs because you're distorting, you just don't know it. I put mine right down there. So right now it's running at 15. If you see 13 volts, that's okay. But if once you start seeing 12 or 11 volts, then that's a huge no-no as far as running the voltage down when you're running your sound system. So next would be wheels. And the reason why I did not change the wheels of this car is they're actually really incredible in my eyes, the ones that come with this car. I hated them at first, but then a good friend described these wheels as looking like Porsche GT3 RS or GT2 RS wheels from a few years ago. Not exactly sure which Porsche, but once he started telling me about how much he loved them, I was like, man, maybe these aren't so bad. So I stuck with them for now. The only downfall to that situation would be the width of the rear tires. I think anybody that really has driven these cars realizes the lack of grip that you have under 50 miles an hour. Like if roll races are happening, I'm gonna need to start at 50. I mean, 55 miles an hour really improves the grip of the car in order to where I don't spin anymore. But what happens if anything below, you know, 45, 50 miles an hour, you're not to spin, go sideways. That's pretty much classic AMG C63 characteristics. That's why we love it so much. That's always the debate that I have between the C450 and the C63, is just how different those cars handle. The 450, you can punch it anywhere, anytime, you're good to go, you're going straight. That's a very predictable platform. But with the C63, you have to be going straight. It's a lot like any Hellcat video that you see online with just spinning, spinning, spinning. So if I had any critiques, you know, from these cars coming from factory, it would definitely be, we need some wider tires. But for now, it's all good. I would say the sound system in the back probably added about 150, 200 pounds. Those subs are extremely heavy. And now I actually hook up at like 30, 35, and full acceleration with little to no spin. So that was a benefit of the sound system that I was not anticipating, but I'm very excited for nonetheless. If I was gonna do this over again, I would have rolled the fenders before doing the install of the wrap, just to be able to kick them out a little bit wider. Everybody loves a wide body, and this car's already pretty wide, but just rolling those fenders would give it that little extra touch. Okay, so what's next with the car? Obviously, turbos would be the next bet for modifications with this. For some reason, the internals are so strong in these engines that you can just strap pure 1000 turbos, and the only weak link is the transmission. So building the transmission, WiseTech has a great kit for that. So that would be the next thing. You can add an extra, I believe it's 2 quarts of oil to their transmission kit with the extended portion at the bottom. WiseTech has pretty much everything you could possibly need for these cars, tune included. But like I said, definitely DME was my favorite bet for this. Okay, another thing with the bonus tips is you're definitely gonna need a Costco membership with all of the gas that you're gonna use with these cars. I used to not care about gas mileage. I was like, whatever. But after going to Costco every 3 days, I would just say it's a weird moment when you actually go online and look and see what a Tesla would cost. It's just a weird moment when you realize how many times you're going to the gas station, and that would be definitely experience with this vehicle. It is what it is, but definitely a Costco membership will help you out over the course of a year in your monthly and weekly gas trips and expenses. So I hope that helps a little bit. Again, if you guys have any questions at all about anything that's been done to this car, I try to respond to every single comment. Fell in love with this car. Probably, now it wouldn't have been this car, it would have been, you know, the version right before it with the 6.2 liter. But you know, now just due to my age and the current vehicles that are out right now, this would be the equivalent to C63 of my dreams. One day I'll get a naturally aspirated one, but for right now, this is dream car. It helps me do everything that I need to do. You guys probably know that filmmaking is my full-time job. I strap myself up in the back, harness everything, and I hang out the back seats in order to film. Here in Charlotte, Underground Racing is local to here, in addition to all of the aftermarket performance European shop like Eurofed, for example. I needed to be able to keep up with these cars and film at the same time. So that was one thing, you know, with the tune, it removes the speed limiter. So now it's not limited to, I believe it's 140, 145 is the stock limitations from it. So with the tune, now you can go way faster than that. I don't know what the maximum speed is with the car, but I haven't found it yet. And then right after that, the next things that are gonna be done with the car would be the front lip, side skirts, wing possibly, and then diffuser. That would just be, you know, the natural progression of all of the modifications to the car. Next videos would include obviously 5 things I love, 5 things I hate about this car. After driving this car every single day for an entire year, I can definitely easily come up with more than 5, so that list may become 10 for each on the hate side and the love side. I can probably come up with way more than 10 things that I love, but definitely 10 things that I hate. So that'll be next. If you guys have any questions at all about this car, please leave a comment down. I try to answer every single comment to the best of my ability, best of my knowledge. I definitely feel like been through everything that I can imagine with this vehicle, from stock to very not stock. If I could help any of you guys with any questions that you have, then that would absolutely make my day. That's the whole reason for doing videos like this. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.